Well, how about that? Martinsville really did turn into Martinsville. Let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to today's edition of The Fuel, where today we are going to be reviewing the 2019 First Data 500 at Martinsville, the first race in the round of 8 of the 2019 NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series playoffs. And it was underwhelming as all hell. There was a lot of hype for this race, considering what had happened in the past, but it just didn't live up to the hype. Full disclosure here, the first 450 laps of this race was garbage. I mean, it was boring as fuck. I didn't really enjoy it. It really didn't start heating up until the last 50 laps, and even then, it wasn't as good as in years past. The aftermath was kind of funny, though. But before we get into all that, let's get into a little bit of news of the week. And a bit of a medical scare. Matt Tifft actually fell ill. I think it was on Friday when they were at the track. He had to go to the infield care center and then was eventually transported to a local hospital and eventually was sent home. There has been no extra reports on what his medical condition is, although he did undergo brain surgery a couple years ago to remove a benign tumor. So hopefully there wasn't like any complications from that. I mean, he's only 23 years of age, so it's hard to know, what could have caused that. And he's not gonna return to the car until he gets some advice from doctors and stuff like that. Try to find out what exactly it was that caused his illness. But hopefully he gets better soon, because that's not exactly something that you want to hear, as a driver falling ill just randomly like that. So not a whole lot of news this week, but there was one other thing that happened this weekend that was a massive fail. And so it is time for Dumbass of the Week. This Dumbass of the Week is not any one particular person like it's been in the past. In this case, it's Fox Sports 1. Because they were airing the truck race on FS1 when right near the end of the race, right as they were taking the green for the green-white checkered overtime finish, they completely lost the feed. And if that wasn't enough bullshit, as soon as Todd Gilliland was doing it, they started doing the donuts, then all of a sudden they just hard cut right to a college football game. And it's like, are you serious right now? I mean, you basically lose the feed to the finish of the race, and then you just decide to go to the college football game without even showing a replay of the finish. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, how fucking stupid is that? Like, seriously. I mean, you're getting paid. It's like, I don't know, it's just royally fucked. Honestly, Fox Sports just fucking sucks nowadays. Like, it really does. And honestly, I wish, it was just like NBC or something like that had the NASCAR race, because Fox just fucking sucks. I'll just leave it at that. With that out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into the review and get this done and over with. So, let me see here. Wow, I actually have 3 pages of notes. That's kind of surprising. So, the stages broke down like this. Stages 1 and 2 were 130 laps. I don't really know why. Stage 3 was 240 laps. Denny Hamlin started from the pole. A lot of people in the garage said that he was probably going to be the guy to beat this weekend, or for this race. No, it wasn't going to be Denny Hamlin. Chase Elliott had to go to the rear of the field for an engine change, and Ryan Newman, Corey LaJoie, Timmy Hill, and BJ McLeod had to start from the rear of the field for failing post-qualifying inspection. So Hamlin leads lap number 1. We had some 3 wide racing early on for back around the 5th position. They actually got away with it. Truex and Blaney get by Almirola for 2nd and 3rd, respectively. And things are actually kind of stacking up big time at the mid-pack. Harvick kind of door slams Larson and turn 4 back in the pack. It was right around the 16th position, I think. Hamlin was already lapping cars on lap 18, and not only that, this was the warmest Martinsville race in a long time. And this, bear in mind, this is late October, and it was 80 degrees during this race. That's pretty crazy. The first caution came out on lap 29 for debris, namely brake ducts all over the track from the 36 car, which was being driven by Matt Crafton this time. Becoming a bit of a super sub, because he also subbed for Paul Menard at Talladega when he had his neck issues, which is probably why Paul Menard is retiring from the sport altogether. So everyone comes in for service, and Martin Truex Jr. wins the race off pit road. And that is basically the last time we see any sort of challenge for the lead, other than the finish of stage 2, because Martin Truex Jr. basically came to this race and made it his bitch. So he leads on the restart. Hamlin gets by Suarez for 3rd. He had dropped back a little bit on the pit stops. Pit stops were a nightmare for Hamlin all day long, whereas with Truex, they were perfect on every single pit stop. Kind of mirroring what Brad Keselowski did back in the spring, except he did a lot better than that. And Brad Keselowski led 446 laps in the spring. Spoiler alert, Truex led more than that. Yeah. Bowyer, Suarez, and Almirola SHR cars battling for the 4th position, so they were looking pretty good early on. Hamlin gets by Blaney for 2nd. Elliott's engine started running a bit hot 50 laps in. Elliott gets up inside the top 10 after 90 laps, after starting back in the 34th position, so pretty impressive run so far. Bowyer challenges Suarez for 4th once again and takes it this time. Blaney begins challenging Hamlin for 2nd. And Martin Truex Jr. wins stage number 1. Chase Elliott finishes 8th, which was nicely done. This was a pretty snooze-worthy first stage. I didn't enjoy it. Everyone comes in for service, and MTJ wins the race off pit road. Get used to that. So he leads the start of stage number 2. Bowyer gets a great restart and moves up to 2nd. A lot of people actually also pointed at Bowyer's being a dark horse for the win today, or the win at Martinsville. Byron gets by Hamlin for 3rd. Big shout out to William Byron. I mean, he put in one hell of a performance in this race. Easily his best effort in that 24 car since taking it over last year. I think if him and Chad Canal stay together, I think they're going to do some good things in that 24 car. And 2020 might be the best time to do that, because he's starting to, he's got some years under he's got some races under his belt now in the Cup Series, and I think he could win some races in the near future. Elliott gets up to 5th. Jones gets nudged by the 3 of Austin Dillon in turn 3 and somehow hangs on. He went full Tokyo drift through turns 3 and 4. Alex Bowman has an unscheduled pit stop for a loose wheel. Byron gets by Bowyer and moves up to 2nd. The second caution comes out on lap 179. Ty Dillon comes across the nose of Daniel Hemrick and spins off a turn 4. Everyone comes in for service. Truex wins the race off pit road. Hamlin loses spots on pit road again. And a big blow for Chase Elliott as he has a broken axle. So that put him many laps down. 52 to be exact. So I don't know what it is about Chase Elliott and the round of 8, but it always seems like he has some sort of mechanical problem in one of these races that just takes him completely out of contention to get into the championship 4. It's insane. He's managed to make it to the Elite 8 the last 3 years in a row, and it seems like each and every time something goes wrong for him. It's absolutely crazy. So Truex leads on the restart. Kez with a left rear tire rub. He and Jimmy Johnson actually made contact on pit road, which is why Kez had the tire rub. I think it was this stop, I believe. Almirola starts hounding Denny Hamlin for 7th. Blaney starts catching Bowyer for 2nd and takes it on lap 235. Elliott finally comes back out of the garage on lap 237. 53 laps down. Logano gets by Bowyer for 3rd. Bowyer pits with a possible flat left rear tire on lap 249. But turns out it was actually a right side tire that was flat. Or actually, I think they went with right side tires, but it was actually the left rear that was flat. And they only changed the one side of the tires instead of changing all 4. So the 3rd caution came out on lap 253 for debris from Bowyer after the tire shredded apart. I mean, that was just dumb. I mean, the crew chief has got to recognize, I mean, they got cameras all over the fucking place. You know, the crew chief has got to recognize which tire is going down. And they changed the wrong tires. Like, are you serious? A lot of the leaders come in for service, but Larson stays out because there's only a couple laps to go in the stage. So trying to get some stage points. Playoff points no longer apply here because basically, you know, it's just making it to the championship 4. So earning playoff points no longer applies. Larson manages to hold Truex at bay for a bit, but Truex manages to get underneath of Larson in turn 3 and beats him to the line to win stage number 2, which was our one and only pure lead change of the day on lap 260. And this is the point where Truex just basically said, yeah, bye. He would not give up the lead for the remainder of this race. It was insane. So Larson comes in for service under this stage break since he stayed out. Mission accomplished, though. He managed to earn 9 championship points. You know, considering that he came in below the cut line, that's pretty important. So, stage number 3, Martin Truex Jr. of course leads. Almirola moves up to 4th. Logano leaning on Blaney for 2nd and actually shoves the 12 out of the way. I mean, he just, you know, just ARCA breaks it into turn 1, just basically shoves Blaney out of the way for the runner-up spot. And I was like, man, way to be a doucher to your own teammate, Logano. Of course, this is not the last time we're going to be talking about Logano, I'll tell you that much, and how much of a bitch he is. Fuck, man, Logano is such a wuss. Eric Jones loses the left front tire and has to make, I think it was either left front or left rear. I think it was the left rear, actually. And he has to make an emergency pit stop. Byron moving forward in the top 5, catching Blaney for 3rd and passing him on lap 304. And then Byron runs down Logano and begins challenging him for 2nd and takes it on lap 327. So again, William Byron he was basically the only one who could really challenge Truex at this point. Kyle Busch gets by Eric Almirola for 5th. Bubba Wallace threatening to get inside the top 10, challenging Kurt Busch for the spot and actually taking it. He actually had a pretty decent car. The 4th caution comes out on lap 347. Austin Dillon gets into Ricky Stenhouse and cuts his right front tire down. Everyone comes in for service right at the edge of the fuel window, and Martin Truex Jr. wins the race off pit road. At this point, the race was just boring as fuck. And then we go from god-awful racing to god-awful driving. Because this is when the wave of caution flags started coming in. Truex leads on the restart. Hamlin tries to dive bomb Kyle Busch in turn 3, but doesn't pull it off, and then lays the bumper into him instead to get around him. So Hamlin himself was also kind of driving like a doucher. Caution number 5 on lap 362. Eric Almirola gets into Kyle Busch, and both of them spin. Kyle Busch is lucky, but Jimmy Johnson slams into the 10 car, which puts Johnson out of the race. I think Eric Almirola also got put out of the race. And then Almirola basically swore that he was going to make things very difficult for Kyle Busch through the rest of the year. You know, Kyle Busch just doesn't seem to be focused at all, you know, in this playoff run. I mean, he hasn't won in quite some time. And even though he came into this playoff as the number 1 seed, he won the regular season title, he has just not looked good at all in this playoff run. In 7 races, he only has 3 top 10s. You know, so if it wasn't for the fact that he has all those playoff points from earlier in the season, then, you know, who knows if he would have gotten this far at this point. But honestly, the only drivers who have looked like championship contenders in this playoff have been Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex. Truex specifically. I mean, Truex has been the most consistent performer out of everybody in these playoffs. Out of 7 races in this playoff run, he has 3 victories. If that tells you anything. And also, a little bit of a fun fact. 2016 was when his, wave began, and it's just like, holy shit, He had 4 wins that year, but doesn't reach the championship 4. The next year, he wins 8 victories. He had 7 wins and then won the Homestead race to win the championship. 2018, he only wins 4 times, finishes second in the championship. And this year, he, with this Martinsville win, which we'll get to in a bit, he has 7 wins heading into Homestead. But yeah, Truex has definitely been the most consistent driver of this playoff run. I mean, he is obviously the clear-cut favorite. Everybody was pointing towards Hamlin, saying it was going to be his year. Truex has been the most consistent driver out of everybody. And I'm talking about all the performers. I mean, yeah, Kyle Larson had the great run at Dover, and Ryan Blaney won at Talladega, but I mean, those were just flashes of brilliance. Truex has been consistently good all throughout the playoff. The only bad finish he really had was Talladega, but then again, pretty much every playoff driver had a bad finish there. But Matt DiBenedetto and Ryan Preece also received damage in the Shamazel with Almirola and Kyle Busch. Martin Truex Jr. leads on the restart. Byron and Blaney race side by side for second for several laps. Hamlin runs Byron up the track in turn 3 to try to get the second spot. Then we get our 6th caution on lap 378 when Alex Bowman gets into Bubba Wallace and gets turned into Suarez, nearly climbing over the 41 car. So not the first time that Bowman and Wallace have gotten together. Although this one just looked incidental. Truex leads on the restart. Byron gets by Hamlin for 3rd. The battles for 2nd and 4th heating up as Truex just says, "See you later, boys." With 64 laps to go, Truex leads his 400th lap, which meant that both Martinsville races in 2019 saw a driver lead at least 400 laps. Can anybody tell me when the last time that happened was? Because, I mean, leading 200 or even 300 laps, of a 500 lap race is pretty impressive. 400? That's insane. And we saw it twice in the same year at the same track. In the spring, it was Brad Keselowski. Although that one, he had a little bit more of a challenge. Ironically enough, from a Hendrick Motorsports driver. Although that was Chase Elliott. Kind of a similar situation this time around, except it was Truex, who led 464 of the 500 laps, and he was being challenged mostly by William Byron, a Hendrick Motorsports driver. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Bowyer has a flat left rear tire once again, and causes yet another caution. So yet another fail by Clint Bowyer. Why is this guy driving the 14 car again next year? I don't know. Everyone comes in for service for, I think, the final time, because it's like 50 laps to go, and Truex wins the race off pit road once again, and he leads on the restart. Byron and Blaney fight hard for 2nd, while Hamlin and Logano fight hard for the 4th position. And then we get probably our most interesting caution because of what happened after the race. Our 8th caution on lap 459, Logano spins in turn 1 after the left rear tire goes down, after being walled by Denny Hamlin coming off of turn 4. So yeah, this is not the first time that Logano and Hamlin have gone at each other. I remember 2013, several cases that they went at each other, and of course who could forget the race at Auto Club, where their fight for the win ended with Denny Hamlin suffering a back injury and putting him out of the car for a race or 2. But we'll get to the post-race shenanigans here in a minute. Truex leads on the restart. Byron begins hounding Truex for the race lead. Kez moves Blaney out of the way, but he moves over and gives the spot back to him because he's like, yeah, I didn't mean for that to happen. So he moved over and let Blaney have the spot back. which I thought was kind of interesting. And then we get our final caution on lap 472 when Daniel Hemrick spins and collects Michael McDowell. So 9 cautions. Slow this race down. Stenhouse also door slammed Larson before the caution, but it didn't look like there was any cut tires or anything. Several cars come in for service, so Martin Truex Jr. leads on the restart. Hamlin starts roughing up Keselowski for 4th, but washes up, and Kurt Busch challenges for position. Kes gets by Blaney for 3rd. Byron started keeping things... Yeah, if I can talk for a second. Byron keeps things close with Truex for the race win. Logano gets back up to 9th with 13 laps to go. Hamlin closes back in on Keselowski for 3rd. In the waning laps of the race, Byron washes up in turn 3, which lost him some time. He actually managed to close back in, but he was not catching Martin Truex. Nobody was, actually. And he wins the first Data 500, leading a mind-boggling 464 laps on his way to his 26th career victory. In the last 4 years, he has won 23 times. That is an average of nearly 6 races per year the last 4 years. I mean, you want to look up the definition of a late bloomer? Truex is it, because from 2006 to 2014, he had just 2 victories. And then from 2015, he got the 1 win at Pocono, and then since then, it's just been... I mean, it's what you call a late bloomer. I mean, this is the kind of performances that I expected him to have early in his career. Better late than never, I suppose. Especially since it's netted him a shit ton of victories now. And he's equaled Dale Jr. in career wins, which is not too shabby considering that Jr. for the longest time was in the top 30 in career victories. His car did pass inspection. I think everybody passed inspection. So Truex is heading to the championship 4, and there were a lot of people on Twitter that were like, they must have NASCAR in their back pocket because Toyota is nothing but a bunch of cheaters and all this other shit. And it's just like, dudes, shut the fuck up. I'm about sick and fucking tired of all the conspiracy theory bullshit that comes from, whenever someone passes inspection, that was a dominant car, and there were people like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Shut up. Enough with that shit. It's done. It's over with. There's nothing you can fucking do about it. Shut your damn pie hole. Now, some of us are about sick and tired of that fucking bullshit. And Jesus Christ, people. I mean, I understand that there's some people that don't like him, but there are times that drivers that I don't like win, but I don't fucking accuse them of cheating. Now, Jesus Christ, people. And then the fun times weren't over yet because apparently Logano went over to Hamlin, and it looked like they were having, a conversation about what happened on track. And I guess Logano didn't like the answers that he got from Hamlin, so what Logano decided to do was basically smack his shoulder hard. Like, it was kind of like a, one of these, but instead he just kind of did a little smack. Hamlin was not going to take that, and he went after Logano. So, I mean, that's just typical Logano, though. I mean, he hits someone and then he walks away like a little bitch. An even bigger bitch, though, was one of the guys from his crew, who, in the middle of that fracas, Todd Gordon was, I think it was Logano's crew chief, was trying to, separate him, like, let's not do this. Someone from Logano's crew decides to come up from behind and drag Hamlin to the ground by the scruff of his collar, which I think is fucking bullshit, because that's chicken shit right there. Attacking someone from behind like that. And there were some people like, yeah, Hamlin's a bitch, he got knocked to the ground. No, you stupid motherfucker. He was dragged down from behind by someone who shouldn't have even been involved to begin with. And NASCAR suspended that particular person for 1 race for doing that. So I think they're sending a message like, these crews need to stay out of these fights. And I've said that before too. That when 2 drivers start going at it, let them settle it. Don't let the crews get involved, because when you have like a pack of 24 people there, and tensions are running high, that has the tendency to turn into a riot. And that's when like a full-blown battle royal. And that's when, innocent people can get hurt. I mean, I remember, the Texas ruckus between Keselowski and Gordon. Of course, that was started by Harvick being a piece of shit, shoving Keselowski from behind, and that set that whole thing off. And there was a fucking pit reporter there just trying to do an interview, and she was in the middle of all this, and it was a wonder how she wasn't hurt. So, did Hamlin drive like a doucher most of the race? Yeah, sure. But Logano did as well. And then, things got heated afterwards. Logano shoving Hamlin, and then walking away. That's pussy shit. But then again, that's what Logano is. That's the kind of person he always is. And then Hamlin, did kind of a impersonation of, well, that's short track racing, basically mocking what Logano said last year. Yeah, fucking hypocrite. That's what Logano is. He's nothing but a fucking hypocrite. It reminds me of Kyle Busch in that sense, where he can dish it out, but he can't take it. But I'm gonna just end it right there because it's like whatever. It is what it is at this point. It was entertaining to say the least. And of course, this is not the first time those two have gone at it. There's no love lost between those two for sure. But and Truex saw it all going down, and he was asked afterwards, what did you think about all that? He said, I don't give a damn. And nor should he, because he doesn't have to deal with all this drama that the other teams are dealing with. All these other teams, they're going to be, the 7 guys that are left, they're going to be sweating their ball sacks off over the next 2 races. Because, a trip to, the championship 4 is on the line. Truex, on the other hand, he doesn't have to worry about jack shit. He can just go into Homestead and be like, yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll. And he's going to have a cool head. Doesn't have to worry about, what happens at Texas or Phoenix. He can just go right to Homestead and be ready to rock and roll for the championship. And that's the biggest advantage that they have right now. But, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the top 10 finishers for the 2019 First Data 500 at Martinsville. Alright, so top 10 finishers for this race. Martin Truex Jr., of course, leading 464 laps, won both stages, won the race, got the perfect 60. William Byron with his best effort, finishing second. I think he's going to win some races for too long. He may even win before the year's out, for all we know. Brad Keselowski finished third. Too little too late for him after being eliminated last week. Denny Hamlin comes home in fourth after starting from the pole. So he's basically the leading man in the round of 8 right now on points. We'll get to that in a minute. Ryan Blaney comes home in fifth, which is what he desperately needed, considering that he came in way below the cut line. I think he started out like 29 points out or something like that. Something crazy like that. Kurt Busch in 6th, Kevin Harvick 7th. He came in below the cut line. He was only 2 points out, but even with his 7th place finish, he actually lost points because he didn't gain very much in the way of stage points, I don't think. Joey Logano comes home in 8th, despite his problems late in the race. Kyle Larson came home in 9th, which was actually his best finish at Martinsville. Martinsville it's usually a terrible track for him, but he managed to come home in a 9th position. And Ryan Newman rounds out the top 10. So, your round of 8 standings with 2 races to go, which means there are only 3 races remaining in the season. Truex, of course, has punched his ticket to the championship 4. The 3 guys that are currently in the final 3 spots available. Kind of looks like what I would have expected to see in the championship 4. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano. And Logano has a 14-point bulge in the 4th position. So the 4 guys below him, they got their work cut out for him. Although I would keep an eye on Kevin Harvick because the next 2 tracks are Texas and Phoenix. 2 tracks that he's won at multiple times, particularly Phoenix, because I think he's won at Phoenix like 9 times or something crazy like that. Ryan Blaney, who actually gained some points, he's now just 15 out of the lead. Kyle Larson, 24 out. Chase Elliott, of course, he had that axle break. He's now 44 points below the cut line. So he's either going to need to really make some points up in the next 2 races, or he's going to have to win. Of course, he's pulled that off in the past. I mean, remember the Roval? He pulled that one out of his ass. Although I think he was already locked into the round of 12 anyway. But I wouldn't count Chase Elliott out yet. But man, he's got a lot of work he's got his work cut out for him, as does the other 4 guys that are below the cut line. As for my final rating for this race, I'm going to go on my Bret Hart shit and give it a 4 out of 10. I mean, let's be honest here. The first 450 laps were fucking garbage. I mean, it wasn't really until the last 50 laps where things started to get interesting. And then, of course, the post-race schmozzle between Logano and Hamlin. That was pretty entertaining. And Truex just laughing his happy ass all the way to the bank. And he basically turned it into Martinsville, literally. So, that's going to do it. Only 3 races remain in the 2019 season. I am ready for this season to be over. These seasons are a grind, man. But we'll get through it. Only 3 races to go, and then we get to take a break from racing for a while. But that'll do it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Choo! Well, that is all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, favorite, like, and subscribe to my channels here on YouTube.com and over on BitChute.com. If you would like to sponsor my channel, go to my channel page at subscribestar.com. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Have a good one.